session on nutrition, which was amazing. A lot of knowledge, tons of experts, a lot of people calling in, asking questions. So really good session. I hope we can continue that vibe until the next session, which is our last one. I can't believe it. There's 9 sessions in the book already. This is crazy. Hi, Dre. How are you doing?
What's going on, Susan? I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm fine. I'm actually pretty ecstatic that, we've gone through this whole thing so well, and just, sharing a lot of knowledge. I mean, this has really started off as an idea that Ryan and I talked about, I think when I was in Brazil, which was in December. So since December, we've been working, towards this, and we had to postpone the date once, but otherwise everything was been fine. So super excited, and thanks everyone for joining, all the speakers. Let's make this last session a good one. Branding. So Pasha, how are you doing?
I am awesome.
Great. Yeah. Thanks to have you.
What's up, Pasha?
Why don't we start off with you just quickly introducing yourself to everyone that didn't come on to the last welcome round yesterday?
You want me or Dre?
Yeah. Pasha,
okay.
Go first.
So, hi, I'm Pasha Cook. I am actually a transition specialist. So I help with career advising and also branding. So taking you from where you are as an athlete, mostly collegiate athletes, helping them to identify their transferable skills. And then we start to build from there. Like, what do you want to do with those? And we teach you how to brand yourself, how to go out there, how to network, how to start entrepreneurship if that's something that you want to do.
Great.
Yeah.
And Dre, do you want to piggyback on that?
Yeah, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as DreAllDay. Background professional athlete, played basketball overseas 9 years. Now I'm an entrepreneur, coach, consultant, author, content marketer extraordinaire, and I do a bunch of other things. We'll probably get into that.
Nice. I think Susan's frozen.
Mark. Yeah, I think so. Hopefully. Or maybe that's...
She'll come back. She'll come back. This happens with technology. We're still trying to figure that thing out, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Great.
I think it's going to...
Ryan just left. Anyways, can you guys still hear me?
Oh, we're
a little bit. Her phone. This computer is not working well.
All right, you're back.
Everybody's back. Yeah.
Hey, how do I share this on Twitter? Where's the button to share this?
Click the last share okay, last 30
I think
seconds.
I'm back.
It's the orange button top left.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. So we want to talk about, how athletes can use social media to brand themselves. Why should they actually be branding themselves? We've talked a lot about transitioning out of your professional career, using different platforms, secondary careers, passive income. We've talked about finances, transition, all kinds of things. But the one thing we haven't touched on is how do you actually leverage your brand? How do you make that work? How do you get people to notice you? How do you become visible? I mean, talking from my own experience of, starting up a company, the worst thing is that there's a ton of platform. Everybody tells you a different thing. You should be on all of them, obviously, and you have no idea where to start. So why don't we start off, Dre? You obviously have a very unique story because you started off really early in leveraging YouTube and social media to not only start your professional career and leverage that, but also create your brand. And if people ask you now, like, why should I have a brand?
An athletic
what do you
career,
answer?
let's say you started age 17, you're Kobe Bryant, you played till you're 40, you still got another 40 years to live your life. What are you going to do at that point? Now, if you have a brand, that brand can possibly open doors for you that you couldn't open for yourself. See, when you have a brand, someone might want you to come speak at their school, or maybe you can become an analyst on TV, or maybe you can start selling a product, or you can put your name next to something that people will be interested in just because of who you are. So once you start to build that brand while you're still playing, that brand basically becomes, it's kind of like a system that can work for you instead of you having to do all the work later on. And it also can work for you while you're playing, because that 17 to 40 age range, that's if everything goes perfectly. But we know that the average career in the NBA is what, 4.5 years. The NFL is less than that. So most athletes aren't Kobe Bryant. You might be done by the time you're 25. You might be done by the time you're 30. You might not even make it to even begin. So if you can start to build that brand can start to do things for you that you otherwise may not have been able to do for yourself, at least not as quickly. I think she froze again right at the perfect time.
Perfect time as soon as you paused on that one. Hey, Daniel, how are you?
What's going on, Daniel? How you doing?
Very well, thank you, guys. Maybe while she's...
Did Daniel freeze too?
Yeah, I think he did.
It's just you and I.
So freezing everybody.
Incredible. I agree totally with you. I went through several transitions as an athlete. So I started off playing ball. I don't know about you, playing basketball when I was around 7. So I kind of held on to that thing. And in 11th grade, due to moving from house to house to house, I ended up losing my eligibility.
But one of the reasons that branding is so important, or one thing that's really important in branding, is the pitch. We just had a guest joining.
Yeah, I hear it.
Okay, I think it went out. And I lost my eligibility, so I dropped out of school until I was 23 and got back into school due to a coach who saw more than me than just sport, because I was holding on to that thing, athletic identity. At 23, I got my first basketball scholarship and then went on to play at University of Memphis and graduate there and become a first-generation college graduate because people saw in me, particularly a coach, more than just a game, right? And that helped me to set up the mindset that I'm bigger than just the game. Let me utilize what this game has brought me, my attributes, and apply that to my life. And it took a while for a little while to get the gist of that. But then I learned how to brand myself. I learned how to network, how to enter into a room, what's the appropriate attire by studying fashion and stuff like that. So now that's why I picked up what I do, because it's important how you enter a room if you want to be amongst those people in the room, and then your communication skills, right? So we just carried a conversation till you guys got back. Susan.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I'm just chilling. I'm waiting, just lurking, because the internet there in Denmark has been crazy for her. So I think 4G on your phone works fine. Just stop trying to go away from it. Stick with what works.
I know.
It's like athletes, we know. Just stick with what works.
Well, honestly, it's an important thing, right? If you're trying to be on social media all the time, Blab is a great platform, but it consumes a freaking amount of data, so just be aware of that.
Yeah, all the bandwidth.
I mean, while we're talking about platforms, and Ryan, feel free to kick yourself out again to let Daniel come on. There's a ton of platforms out there, and started off with MySpace back in the days, and YouTube, Facebook, and all that kind of good stuff. And I think as an athlete, if you're not at all into this, and I mean, we've had speakers here who didn't even have a Twitter profile, who had to create a Twitter profile as an athlete to be able to speak. When you're really starting off, where should you start? Like, which platform should you turn to? Pasha, what would you advise?
I think it's important to know where you're going first. Because every platform doesn't work for everyone. I know at one point in my life, I was trying to be on everything, and that means I'm not giving a large amount of energy to certain things that I find that work for my business, right? Twitter may work. I use Instagram, I use Facebook, but I use them for different reasons, because Twitter is more so building that community, understanding who your audience is. You can retweet people, you can connect with people on there. Instagram is more so the vision. So when you're on Instagram, people want to see what you're doing. They want to be a part of what you're doing. So that to me is more visual, kind of like a Pinterest. And then Facebook is just to have that landing page that leads people to my website, which you can find out more about me, and also to share with a smaller community, maybe families and friends that can see what's going on with you, that can share your information, get in groups on there as well. So you really have to know where you're trying to go. And then you also need to know your strengths. What are you strong in? What kind of company do you own? What is the platform that's going to be conducive to that? And then if you don't understand those platforms, learn them or hire someone if you can to help you with that as well. That's how I say it. Yeah.
I think there's two main points, right? I mean, one is to understand your message. What is the brand that you're trying to build, right? And then choose the appropriate platform. And then secondly, know your audience. I mean, if you're going after 15 to 25-year-olds, maybe Facebook is a little bit outdated, right? You might want to pick up your Snapchat game. But, for the athlete population who probably wants to speak to fans and parents and family back home and, potential sponsors, Dre, what do you think is a good platform to start off with?
For an athlete who wants to, you say, possibly get sponsors? Mm-hmm. Well, what I tell people all the time when it comes to building their brands, people always ask, which platform should I be on? You have all these platforms. Do I need to be an octopus and be on all of them? My answer is very simple. You need to be, first of all, identify who you are, what you're about, as Pasha said. But then where is the audience of people whom you want to reach? Now, if your brand happens to be the type of brand where you want to reach everybody, then you have to understand that there's a certain population of people who only read content. They only look at things they can read, such as Twitter, such as blogs, such as maybe newspapers or email lists. There's also a segment of the population who only watches video. They just don't read. So they'll watch a Blab, they'll watch a Periscope, they'll look at a YouTube video, maybe some stuff on Instagram, but they're not reading anything that's written. So if you decide that you're only going to write things, you're cutting yourself off from that population. If you decide you're not going to write anything, you're only going to make video, you're cutting yourself off from that segment of the population. So you have to decide how big do you want your brand to be? How many people do you want actually seeing what you're doing? And if you want everybody seeing you, then you need to be where everybody's at. And you can easily look up which platforms are most popular with which demographics. And then you start to build your brand from there.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And Daniel, have we come across introducing you already?
No, we haven't. And you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, wonderful.
Perfect. So then why don't you just step right in?
And why don't I just step right in? So if you're having internet issues in Denmark, I'm having them here in Washington, D.C. I'm 4 blocks from the White House, and internet goes down every 15 seconds. So I apologize for that. My name is Daniel Davidson. I'm the vice president of the research and analytics division for Fleischman Hiller. It's a big global PR firm. I also am the assistant coach for 2 NCAA volleyball teams, a men's and a women's, in addition to running one of the top USA PVL volleyball teams. PVL is USA Volleyball's early attempts at creating a professional volleyball league in the United States. Social media, yeah, it's not a fad. It's going to stick around, I guess. I think like what Pasha and Dre have said is spot on. Each social platform does something different. And I think the wrong way to do social, whether you're just an athlete trying to create a brand or you're Samsung, AT&T, or Gatorade, is the wrong way is to just jump into it and start creating content without really knowing what you're trying to accomplish. So it's hard to do it this way, but you have to take a step back and think through, number one, what are my communication goals? Like, what am I trying to do? Do I have fans that I'm just trying to keep them engaged in me? Am I trying to position myself well for sponsors? So I'm trying to look like a good dude, a guy that's like a positive image for the world. Am I just creating content because I'm extroverted and I want the world to share in my experiences as a personal goal? So number one, think through what you're trying to do. Number two, think through who you're trying to reach, because each audience accesses social differently. Teenagers in the United States are different than a general manager in Azerbaijan. And each social platform does different things. Let's say like a picture is worth 1,000 words, but how much is a video worth? So if you're into video, then YouTube and posting things that have video is right for you. If you're just into quick little updates and press releases, and this is what I'm doing and check this out, you don't actually like to create content, you just like to curate it and push it out, then Twitter is a great platform for you. Easy to access it quickly, and so on. So thinking through what you're trying to do, who you're trying to reach, are key questions before you make the plunge into social.
Great. Thanks so much for giving all of that knowledge and introducing yourself at the same time. Pasha, so when we're thinking of, taking that step back, as Daniel said, and really becoming clear on what your brand message is, do you have any good exercises or questions that athletes can ask themselves to start that process of really figuring out and honing in on their message of what they're trying to actually tell with their brand?
Yes. Well, first of all, let me back up a little bit. I think it really depends on what level of athlete you are as well. A high school athlete compared to a college athlete, totally different messages at that point as far as social media. And then a pro athlete as well. That's a different level of who you're trying to reach. Because in high school, you're not really into trying to get sponsorship necessarily. So that would be pro athletes, right? But for me, it's okay. Well, where do you want to go? So my business is consultancy and is branding. Who else is out there that's already doing it? Do I have anybody that can mentor me as far as where I want to go? As an athlete, we have to think about when we transition out and what's going to happen there, whether we're in high school, whether we're in college or pro, and what else do you have a passion for? What other industry that you didn't get the opportunity? Because we know as athletes, we're focused on that sport primarily all the time, trying to build up peak performance, trying to have a better game. So what else piques your interest? What are your other passions? And then once you figure that out, well, is there an industry that supports that? I'm sure it is. Who's out there? Who's doing it the way you want to do it? Start paying attention to those people. Start networking with those people. So if I was a college athlete and I'm a junior and I want to go into marketing, then I would start to build that LinkedIn profile and start to connect with those people, whether it be athletes or whether it be other people in that industry, and start trying to start a dialogue with them and look at their branding and how they're branding. Once you know where you want to go and who's there and who you can connect to or the brands that you like, then you can start to build a strategy around that. Did that answer your question?
Definitely. Does anybody have any other comments?
Here it might just be like a question out to the group is we're talking about brand, right? And I just posted the question off to the side, but a lot of young athletes, when they go out to represent themselves, they want to represent who they are, right? And that includes a lot of like personal stuff, maybe their social life, their party life, but obviously that may not necessarily be the best choice for their brand. If every NFL player represented what they do at night and on the weekends as part of their brand, they wouldn't find very many sponsors. They wouldn't be very successful in their branding campaign. So we need to kind of button up ourselves and be, I don't want to say professional because it still has to be authentic. Your brand has to be the true you. But what is your guys' take on young athletes creating a brand, and to what extent should it be authentic in their real life versus something that's more intentional and sculpted?
What I think is when it comes to building a brand, what everyone has to understand these days is as soon as your name is on the internet, you have a brand, whether you want one or you don't. Every single thing you do is part of your brand, and every single action you take is marketing. It's either positive marketing that's making you look good, or it's negative marketing that's making you look bad. So everyone actually has a brand. Now, people just need to be more conscious, especially athletes. They need to be very conscious of what they're posting, what they're doing, who they're saying it to, the type of things that they share, conversations that they get in, because that stuff can come back to haunt them in their pro careers, their college careers, or their amateur careers if they're high schoolers and things like that. But everybody already has their brand. And I think as long as you understand what it is that you're doing, it's hard to draw a line between your personal stuff and your professional stuff. Because if you're an athlete, we all know being an athlete at the professional level is a full-time job. It's not a part-time job. It's not a thing you do on the side. It's something you're doing all day. So how can you be online and post anything if you're not talking about your sport? It's part of your life. It's who you are. So I don't think there's a line between the personal and the professional.
I agree totally with that. Everyone's a brand, and you can't go out there and be throwing up drinks and everything and then figure that someone wants to hire you or someone wants to do business with you unless you're in the club business. So it's very, you want to be very mindful and intentional about what you're posting and what you're putting out there. Because as we already know, when you do Google searches and all these other entities, it's there forever. All someone has to do is take a screenshot of what you posted, even if you take it down, and it could be out there to other people. They can share it with other people. So I think it's about just being very intentional, being authentic, but also knowing your market, knowing the industry you want to be in. What do they look like? See, I had to study other people and bring myself into that, right? So I had to weave who I am into in the industry that I wanted to be a part of. But I couldn't go in there with sweatpants on. I really enjoy them,
Yeah.
but I can't show up to a gala or a conference in sweatpants. So I need to know what's appropriate as far as my attire as well. So it's research, it's study.
Well, and I think the other thing is that people will pick up very quickly whether you're authentic or not. If you're not coming across as authentic, even in your professional branding, I think people will just not follow you, and they'll stop listening to your message because it comes across as, as Daniel said, as too manufactured, as too articulated, and almost coached, right? But the question still remains, like, how much of your personal life do you share with your professional brand? I mean, I know a lot of athletes that have different profiles on Facebook, on Twitter, for professional life and for their personal life. Is that a good idea? I mean, how do you manage that? What's your take on that, Daniel?
If you were to ask people why they like LeBron James or Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, they would not cite because Cristiano Ronaldo averages 2.2 goals per match, because LeBron James is the leading point scorer in the world. They wouldn't state anything related to their actual professional job as an athlete. They would say, I dig LeBron James because he came back to Cleveland, where his hometown was from, because he wants to win a thing there. I dig Cristiano Ronaldo because I love his ads. I think he has a great personality, blah, 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 blah. They are citing their personal lives as the reasons why those are their number one fans. It's a tricky thing. Those of you who are outside the United States right now are lucky, because those of us inside the United States have to deal with this presidential election going on right now. And all these presidential candidates, it's the same thing. Like, they're not getting hired based on their civic virtue of what their platforms are. Their personal lives are being torn apart and examined, and they need to have a personal life. They need to have color there. That's why people follow fans and presidents and stuff. So it's a tricky line to cross, and we see so often athletes overstepping that line and maybe showing a little bit too much and being too personal. So I think if one has to err, you err on the side of conservative and professional. But yes, you need to have some color and personality to you.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that poses the next question, like, when should you start censoring yourself? Because if you are a very good high school athlete and you're looking to have a good college career and then making it pro, when do we need to start educating athletes? And when do athletes need to start censoring their online and social media profiles?
I don't think there's a point, excuse me, I don't think there's a point where you have to censor yourself. It's just that you need to be mindful of what you're doing. Just be mindful of what you're doing. Be careful of what you're posting, what you're saying, who you're saying it to. And you need to start thinking. You need to start thinking as the person you're going to be, not as the person that you are. So if you're a senior in high school and you're planning on getting a full scholarship to go play a sport, and then you're going to make it to the pros, you need to be careful what you're saying right now, because we all know now athletes can make it to the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball now, and then all of a sudden somebody digs up a tweet from 6 years ago where they were saying something disrespectful about the person who's right now their coach or their teammate, and now they have to explain what it is that happened, and everybody's talking about it. So you just need to start thinking now as the person that you're going to be, not as the person that you are. And if you think that way at all times, then that will govern your behavior. It doesn't mean you need to separate anything or censor yourself. You'll just think a little bit smarter.
You have to keep in mind that in the old world of newspaper, print ads, radio ads, TV ads, once a message was released, let's say you said something horrible, it was published in a newspaper 5 years ago, it's done, it's 5 years old. With social, it doesn't die. A tweet that I had from 5 years ago, someone can grab that and retweet it. That makes that tweet today. That dates it today. Can keep refreshing as often as you want. So a lot of like rookie athletes that go out into Europe, I work a lot with the girls, the American women who go play professional volleyball. One thing we always say is go through your Facebook profile, go through all the pictures that you have up there, and go back a couple of years. And if you don't have to delete your history, it's not like you have to zero out your existence, but just be smart about what you did in the past, because that does become the present.
Mm-hmm. And of course, potential sponsors or coaches, they're not stupid. They're looking on social media. It's a quick Google away, right? To find your profile, find anything that you posted that you might not even realize is there. Pasha, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I believe that it starts early on, like Dre said. And I believe that the institutions have a responsibility there as well to start educating athletes at a young age, because you have 13 and 14-year-olds and younger than that have phones that are on social media, whether we like it or not. So I feel like the institutions need to start educating these athletes about their social media use and understanding that they are a brand even at that young age. I mean, once you put something out there on social media, you have launched your brand. Now, what is it going to look like? Right. Yeah. So I think it's just about education as well. Like, we need to go back in these schools and say, hey, be careful what you're doing, because what you do now is going to reflect on you 10, 20, the rest of your life, actually. So I think that's very important as well.
Definitely. Now, we've been focusing a lot on what not to do and that social media can have a negative effect, right? But there's a lot of positivity around using social media to create awareness of, you know, your brand, you as an athlete, and the potential you might bring. Dre, why don't we touch upon that aspect of social media, the positive effects that it can have?
Oh, there are endless positive effects social media can have. The great thing about social media today is that, as everybody knows, in 1995, if I was coming out of a Division III college as I did, and I had no resume, not much game film, and no stats to make myself known, there weren't many options that I had. But because of social media, because of YouTube, because of blogging, I was able to get a video of myself, put it out on the internet. Now we have people in Germany, Australia, and the United Kingdom, and the West Coast of the United States, where I'm on the East Coast, who now know my name because of the internet, because of social media. So social media basically flattens the world out. So instead of you having to go through this person, and that person to get to the person you want to talk to, that 6 degrees of separation, that 6 degrees has become 0 degrees. Anybody who's on the internet, who's involved in social media, can be reached. Now, are they going to respond to you? Are they going to be interested? We don't know. But anyone who's on the internet can be contacted in some way, shape, or form by any person who's willing to look for that person. So there's no hierarchy to get to a person now. You can get directly to who you want to get directly to. Now, of course, that has positives and it also has negatives. But the great thing about it is, if you're controlling it, you're strategic, and you're intentional in what it is that you're doing, you can get a lot of people to know your name from the comfort of your own home, as they say, or the comfort of your own gym, or from the comfort of, sitting in front of your smartphone all day. You can get a whole lot of people to know your name. And I think in the world that we see, there are plenty of examples of that, both in and outside of the sports world.
Yeah. Pasha, do you have a good example?
Yes. When I first started using Twitter, because someone told me I should be on there, I was on there just playing for a little while. And then I contacted the editor-in-chief of a major magazine. Long story short, I ended up with a 3-page spread in a national magazine because of reaching out to someone on Twitter. So social media can change the game just like that in a blink of an eye. And I had the same friend that referred me to Twitter wanted to be in that magazine years ago and had been trying to. And all I did was reach out and said, hey, I have something to say. Well, what do you have to say? Let me put you in contact with somebody. And within months, I was in a 3-page spread with that magazine. So it could be something that's very powerful for your brand and for your company as well. And that helped me to start growing immediately. Also, when you run into people and they say, well, I've been following you and I saw your videos on YouTube and I follow you on Facebook, and you don't even know these people, but you're able to reach them, just like Dre said, from your home. I'm sitting in my house doing most of my videos, and it's reaching all these people, and they know your face when you're out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's the great thing. If you do finally realize your message and maybe have a greater goal of, inspiring others, teaching others, mentoring about your own situations, your problems, and sharing that with your audience. I think the social media platforms have such potential to reach and multiply the audience you can reach than it was, 20 years ago, where you had to, write a letter home or visit people in person. I want to get a little bit more practical because I know a lot of the athletes here listening are thinking that's all great, all of these great positive effects, right? But how do I get started? Or if I already have a following, what do I do next, right? I mean, so we're creating this following, we have a message, we've created a brand, we know what we want to communicate. And now it's up to find the right platform, and we're creating a following, we're putting out content, but what can we do next? I mean, what is the next step for us to utilize that visibility? Daniel, can you
sure.
speak on that?
I think so. We've been talking about social media as being an awesome thing because of this amplifier effect. It's a megaphone. It's the ability to, for example, you just write one tweet, and we talk about a tweet as having a tweet reach. That's the total number of people that could potentially see that tweet. And it's not just like I have 1,000 followers, that could be 1,000 impressions. If they retweet it, if 5 of my followers retweet it and each of them have 1,000 followers, then you can see there's this multiplier effect. One of the famous stats is Justin Bieber's tweet reach exceeds the population of Mexico. So they are these massive megaphone effects. Another thing to keep in mind about social is the one channel. It's unlike email, unlike a press release, unlike calling someone, unlike writing a letter. It is the one channel that is two-way. So people to really get the full value of social, it isn't just about pushing out messages. It isn't just about here's what I did, here's what I'm doing, here's what I want to do, look at pictures of me. It has another value, which is listening to to your fans, listening to your consumers, listening to whoever it is that's following you, and it's a forum for having a two-way conversation about that. It's the greatest market research tool about how you're doing, what people think of you, how you're being perceived. So I think that is another great value of it. I don't know if that answered your question. You were trying to get at more some practical first steps for people embarking on a social campaign.
Yeah, but even though, that wasn't necessarily the answer to that question, I think it's super important to realize that you need to listen, right? I mean, you're putting out content and then people are responding. They're actually reading what you're putting out. Then take the time to actually reply to their comments, right? Yeah. I think that's one of the mistakes I've made in the beginning. I was putting out a lot of stuff. I was doing podcasting, blogging, videos, and I was like, go consume it. Mm-hmm. The world may like it or not, and then I wasn't replying. I wasn't actually listening to what they were saying to that content. So that's super vital information, Daniel.
Yeah, so keep this in mind. How do you know? So you turn on Facebook and then there's a couple of stories that are right there at the top. Or you open your Twitter feed and there's a couple of tweets that are right there at the top. Or you open up Pinterest and there's a couple of pins that are right there at the top. Or YouTube, all these platforms. How do you think these platforms figure out what to put at the top of your news feed? Because we all know the top 10 things on your Facebook thing in the morning are the 10 things that you read, and everything else, 11 through 125, those never get read. How does Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, how do they figure out? It's the content that is being engaged with, the one where there's two-way discussion going on, the one where I post something, someone comments back, I respond to that. The Facebook algorithms, the computers think, and usually correctly, that is the really engaging, fun stuff. Mm-hmm. So treating it not as a megaphone, but as a two-way conversation will help your social presence rise to the top of all these various feeds.
Perfect. And honestly, one thing I stepped away from was in the beginning, I was thinking, I need more likes, I need more followers. But essentially what I started doing was to have conversations with people. So instead of looking for more likes or more followers, I was looking for the interaction. And I think essentially, if you have 10 people that you are engaging with, daily, weekly, that you're starting to have a close relationship with. And this is how I built collaboration partners. This is how, Ryan and I started talking. This is how I found probably 50% on the speakers on this platform is through social media conversations. You realize that the amount of likes might not be as important as the depth of the conversation.
For sure. Engagement over exposure. Yeah. Engagement is more important than exposure.
Susan, I like that you made that point, because so many people believe that you have to have 50,000 followers or 100,000 followers to have an impact. And that's not true, because many of the people that you see that have a lot of followers, not all, but many of them, actually, that's not organic, right? People can go out and you can go out and buy all the followers you want to and all the likes that you want to, but is that really bringing you any funds generated? Is that helping you to communicate with your audience? So I think it's very important for people to understand it's not about how many likes you have or how many followers you have. It is about that conversation and linking up with the right people. Again, going back to what I said earlier, is the research. Through research, we kind of found each other, right, on LinkedIn, Susan and I, and that brought me to being on this blab. So it was that one conversation that created this opportunity for me. And I think that it's very, again, going back to being intentional with your brand. Just really, what do you want the world to see? What do you want to put out there? And I believe that you can be authentic in that, but I don't go to clubs and do all that kind of stuff and put it on social media because it does not align with my brand. Now, if that aligns with somebody else's brand because they are a club promoter or whatever, you have to understand the industry that you're in and the image that needs to be out there in order for you to draw in, right, your audience.
What I want to add to that, one counterpoint that I have to what both Daniel and Pasha said, as far as the followers count or the numbers, the quote unquote, the numbers that people have on social media. Sometimes those numbers can work in your favor, even if you went and bought those numbers. Because if, for example, I tell you, hey, come get on Instagram with my friend, she has 34 million followers on Instagram. You're going to at least look. You're going to want to know, like, who is this person? How did they get so many followers? How did they get so many subscribers? Why are so many people checking for them on Snapchat or on Twitter? That number actually, if you go to a company, let's say a company that may want to sponsor your social media account or maybe have you promote their products, they're going to be more interested in the person who has 100,000 subscribers than the person who has 10,000. That's just a fact. And also other thing that you need to understand, everyone watching these understand, is that unlike Pasha and Daniel, not everybody thinks on a deeper level. Most people believe what they see on the surface. Yeah. They don't think too deeply about how did they get these numbers? What are they actually doing? Did they buy these followers? They don't know. Most people just go off of what you show them. Why? Because there's so much information, so many things vying for our attention on a day-to-day basis. We don't have the time to try to look deeper, 3 levels deep into every single thing that we see. So a lot of people will see those big numbers. They'll be impressed by that number. You know what they'll do? 34 million people are following. I guess I should follow too. I must be missing out on something. And if they look at someone who only has 3,400, they're like, okay, well, maybe there's not that much going on over there, even though that may be the place where the best conversation is happening. So at the same time that we all know that we think a little bit deeper about the things we see, we should also understand that the masses, 95% of people don't think like that. They just look at what they see, take whatever they see on the surface and take that part as the information and never think about it again. So it's something that when you're talking about building a brand, you should consider which audience are you angling towards.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that point.
Definitely. I think
go ahead, Susan.
No, I just wanted to say it's a good point, right? And it goes back to who's your audience. I mean, I was obviously looking for collaboration partners, so I needed the depth. But if you want sponsors and endorsement deals, they're obviously going to look for numbers. So Dre's absolutely right. It matters, right? I mean, let's not pretend that, having 20 follows on Twitter is going to get you a sponsorship with Nike.
Absolutely. I want to piggyback off of what you said, Dre, if I may. And that I do believe that, yeah, if you want sponsors and stuff like that, the numbers are important. People are going to follow you because you have all these other followers. But I'm kind of speaking to that audience that they're wanting to get started and they feel like, well, I have to have all these followers to do something. Well, if they don't know the direction that they're going in, first of all, and they go out here and buy all these followers, what are you going to do with them? Because eventually those people that are following you, especially if you buy them, are going to unfollow you. So I don't want you going out there spending all your money trying to buy followers and then hoping that that'll get you some kind of sponsorship. And you're not putting out any kind of great content. You're not putting out content that people want to see. So, yeah, I think that it's a balance there. And you need to know the direction that you want to go before you go and invest in trying to get all these followers and you don't have anything to give to them.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think one good strategy for building up, and we can talk more on that, is associating yourself with someone that has a bigger online presence. I was doing a lot of guest posting in the beginning, or like you said, Pasha, writing articles for magazines, because they'll retweet it, they'll post it for you, and that way you can start with leveraging other people's networks. And then if people like your content, they can go back to your site. And obviously that means you need to have a presence already, right? So the first thing is to set yourself up, have an aligned name on all platforms so people can find you, and make sure that you actually add that to everything that you're writing, which I think is something people are forgetting.
Did we lose Susan? All right, we'll wait for Copenhagen to plug the machine back in. I think what she was about to say, though, is I think she's touching on something really, really big, which is sorry to like be pointing. I know it gets really close, but is this idea of cross-platform connectivity. In a more general marketing sense, we might call it IMC, Integrated Marketing Communications, and it's this notion that your message, your brand, whatever your communication elements are, need to be consistent across all the different platforms. But specifically on social, you can use Facebook to promote your Twitter presence, and you can use Twitter to promote a Pinterest page. Most people who are really good at social, they'll create one piece of content, like a little paragraph, and they'll push it out simultaneously on multiple platforms at the same time. So they'll write a blog, but then they'll add that blog, they'll be posted on their Facebook page, and then they'll tweet, check out my latest post on Facebook. And so they get a lot of mileage across all three platforms, or all four, or all five. So ensuring that if you have three social platforms, ensuring that somebody can find each of your social presences across each of the other social presences is important.
True. And it saves you time and energy from having to try to post the same thing on a bunch of different places at the same time.
Yeah. I might add another thing, which is don't bite off more than you can chew. As you're sitting there at the precipice, ready to take that first step into having a professional social presence. I'm a professional athlete now, and I've figured out what I want to say, and this is my audience, and this is how I'm going to reach them. Make sure you're not signing yourself up for activity that you can't sustain. In the United States, we have this restaurant called Chick-fil-A. Everyone loves it. It's this chicken restaurant. It's like it's owned by these conservative, super religious people. And back when they were a small business, they said, we will never be open on Sundays. Sunday is a religious day. We'll never be open on Sundays. That was back before they were big. Now they're multinational, and they're tied to that. They can't go back on that. So this restaurant has to compete with McDonald's and Taco Bell and Pizza Hut. It has to compete with them by only being open 6 days a week. So on your social presence, don't create a Facebook page that you'll never be able to update. Don't create a Twitter presence that you'll never be able to post to. Make sure that you can make good on the campaign that you initially set out to run.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. You got to be able to follow up. Every single action you start, you got to be able to follow up and see it through to the end. So if you get on 8 platforms, you better have 8 hands, or have that much energy to keep going with all those platforms.
There are some tools that you can use. I know that I used to use Hootsuite that would post to every platform, and also you can schedule it. I think Facebook has scheduling as well now, and also with Instagram, you can post to Facebook, Twitter, and a few other platforms all at the same time. So it's good to know that as well, that if certain platforms allow you to post to other platforms.
Yeah, what Pasha just said there is like spot on. It is take the time to learn about all these tools and software and tricks that are out there that will allow you to manage all your social tools really quickly and easily. It's a pain in the butt if you have to log on to Facebook, do stuff, log on to Twitter and do stuff. If you've got it on your cell phone and you can bang it on your cell phone, or there's things like Hootsuite, which is what Pasha just mentioned. It's the thing that it has like your Facebook, your Twitter, and you can load up like 2, 3, 4 social platforms all on one site. And so right there on one page, you can sit there creating content and sharing content. Doing that, taking the time to learn that, allows you to be so much more effective, so much more timely with your posts, because your game ended. You want to post the result. You can't wait till you get back home 4 hours from now after the bus has ended to actually talk about the game that you just played. You may need to have written those posts before the game and have them scheduled to go out, or be able to create that content in real time. Fans want to hear about the game. The game is the second the game is done, not the next day. There's better sites that they can go to, Sports Illustrated, ESPN. There's better places to go if you want a full write-up the following day.
I have a question for you, Daniel, because we're talking about, and Dre, you can piggyback as well. We're talking about consistency, right, on your social media. But what about overwhelming the audience when you're just posting and posting? Because I see this go on a lot. What do you guys take on that?
Go ahead,
Dre. What do you think?
Okay. So the number one thing I would say, on certain platforms, yes, there is a point where you can overshare because people get overwhelmed. There's only so much content that they can catch up to. But there are certain platforms where the content is expiring, such as a Periscope or Meerkat or Snapchat. That content expires after 24 hours. So on Snapchat, there literally is no way you can overshare because it goes away after 24 hours. So you can just go fill it up all over again. Is the immediacy of it. Now, on other platforms, let's say such as a blog or YouTube, that content, depending on what you're talking about in the content, it can be what we call evergreen content, which means 5 years from now, it will be just as relevant as it is today. So even if somebody doesn't catch it today, if someone new finds it 5 years from now, guess what? It's brand new to them because it's their first time seeing it and the content is relevant to them, even though you wrote it 5 years ago. But if you happen to be writing about, let's say, the 2016 election, in 25, nobody's going to care what you had to say about it unless, something historic happens. So with evergreen content, people will always find it relevant. But as far as, let's say, on Twitter, you might tweet a little bit too often. Maybe people aren't catching up. Maybe you're flooding their timelines. But also you need to know who your audience is, because there are some audiences of people. I see people on Twitter who follow me and I start looking through their timelines. I'm like, wow, they really tweet a lot, but they have a lot of followers listening to what they have to say. So really just know your audience and also understand what works on that platform.
We say, so when I work with my clients, and they mostly are big multinational companies, not necessarily like individual athletes, but we always talk about there are 5 T's. Thank God they all start with T. There are 5 things to optimizing social content, making it exactly the right message at the right time on everything. Topic. So make sure you're talking about the topics that are of interest to your fans, right? If your injuries, what you're going through in your personal life, if that's what's interesting, then talk about that. Shilling for your sponsor. If fans aren't interested in that, don't be talking about that. So topic, timing. So what day of the week? People are on social at different times of the week, on different platforms and different topics at different times of the week. So try and learn when are good times to hit something. Because once you tweet something, within 3-4 hours, the half-life of a tweet is really fast, or the half-life of a Facebook post is really fast. It'll go out there, and unless it goes viral and people start talking about it, it's going to drop off within 3-4 hours. So when you post something is timing. Topic, timing, type. On Facebook, you can do just a paragraph, so just this text. You can upload a photo, you can do a video, you can do a poll. Every social platform has different 3, 4, 5 different kinds of things that you can post. So learn what the correct type is that people like to engage with. Threshold is how frequently. It is possible to go too frequent, to Pasha's point. And also, if you're not creating frequently enough, people are also not going to be interested in you. If you post once a month, I'm not going to follow you. I don't really care. You might as well not even post at all. It'd be better to not even have a social presence than one where you update once a month. And the last one is text length. So that was we don't want to be too verbose. We don't want to write for 27 screens worth on Facebook. So getting that right, getting that length is the 5th T.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I had to jump in. I posted those 5 T's that you just talked about, Daniel. I think those are actually really, really helpful. I wanted to, because we're coming up on the end here, there's 10 minutes left. There's been amazing content, honestly, guys. It's ridiculous. Everybody's like over 300 likes here and whatever, talking about likes. The numbers don't matter. Yes, they do, Dre. Just messing with you. let's take a question from Brooke Seaman. She's in Denmark right now. This is a young woman, young athlete who said that social media actually got her scholarship to school and got her pro career already. So the power of social media, we understand, is huge. But she asked a specific question. It was, let me find it. For those who already have a following and the beginning of a brand, what monetary steps should be made right away to build your launchpad? So where should you be putting this money? Like we talked a little bit about buying followers, things like that. What are the first steps that people should take once they have a little bit of following? Pasha, do you want to hit that up real quick?
I would suggest content, to learn more content and be able to put more content on there. Sometimes you need help. For me, I actually hired a writer that can edit my stuff. So when I write articles, that I can start sending these articles knowing that once it's done, once it goes through her hands, I can send it wherever I need to. And plus, because she's a writer and an editor, she can help me to submit articles as well. So that's what I needed. I think that for me, and I can just speak for me, I hired people to help me with my weaknesses. So if I'm strong in something, I'll stick to that until I can't do it anymore. But I understand my weaknesses, and writing is one of those things that I like to write the way I write, and I needed someone to help me with that. So that's what I needed first, because I understood the rest of it, the branding. So I think it's knowing where you're going to need the help in order to help your brand to grow. What are you good at and what are you not so good at? That's where you want to hire.
Thank you. Dre, you want to take it?
Yes, I would say for anyone who's starting out building their brand and they want to know what to do with their money, here's what you do. You take your credit or debit card and you put it back in your pocket, because to build your brand does not cost you money. What you need is sweat equity, and what you're asking for is not people's money. You're asking for their attention. In the world we live in today, the number one currency is not cash, is not legal tender. It is people's time and attention, because if they're not paying attention to you, they can never buy your products or anything that you're endorsing. So what you need to do is start building on sweat equity. I built my brand by going to the gym, which I was already doing. All I had was a camera that probably cost less than $100. I just started recording myself, putting it on YouTube. That was free. I started blogging. That was free. I started tweeting, free. Snapchat, free. Lab, free. Periscope, free. None of these platforms cost money. What you need is to get people's attention with your content. Whatever your content is, whatever your brand represents, once you have people's attention, then they can start to buy products for you. And now once you have the problem of having too many customers, too many people trying to buy from you and not enough hands to handle it all, that's when you can solve that problem by maybe spending some money. But the first thing you need to do is start to build that brand, build a base of people who give a damn about who you are and what you have to say before you start worrying about spending. Because if spending money is what built the brand, then we have a whole different audience of people who have brands nowadays. Most of them built it just by doing what they were already doing, and they just found an audience of people who cared.
Killed it. You want to follow that up, Daniel?
The best athletes are the ones who work hard on the field and in the gym to make themselves amazing. The best professional athletes are the ones that realize that this is not a game. Yes, it's a game that we all grew up playing since we were 5, but once you become a professional athlete, your body is your business. Your game is a business. It's not a business that is a game. So sometimes professional athletes stumble for 3-4 years before they get that. And the most successful ones are the ones that realize at the onset that what I do as part of my professional brand, my social presence, which we've talked about ad nauseum here, but all the other stuff that we haven't talked about on this forum is a business. And having that buttoned up, thought through, and intentional is key to being as successful as you can.
Thank you. And I just want to touch on, to bring it back a little bit to, I mean, I love what you said, Dre, about, not spending money and sweat equity. And I think that is so important, and I could learn so much from you. And I think so many people could learn so much from all three of you. But when you are, let's say, at that moment where you want to start outsourcing, you've built something, you don't have the 8 hands, right? What are some of the platforms, let's say, for these global athletes to be looking for this help? Because I tell you what, like, I'm traveling all the time. It's so hard to be in one place. How do I find somebody great in that place? So where can we be looking? I mean, I know there's a lot of sources like Elance, Upwork, Fiverr, all these sites Is there anything that you guys have used that you like and it works for you?
I actually use Elance and Upwork.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I've used a site called fancyhands.com, which is they basically crowdsource virtual assistants. So you tell them what job you need done. They find an assistant out of the hundreds that they have at their disposal, and one gets chosen and they get it done.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. And before I give it to you guys for the last minute to wrap up in your minds, like what athletes should be doing just to get going, what they should do, and then the first thing they should focus on, or the things they shouldn't be focused on, right? So how to get started and what you shouldn't focus on. I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching. If you like what they're about to say here at the end, it's very important that you share this out. This whole platform, this whole idea for athleteblab is to bring together athletes that have been doing their sport and that have done it, who are moved on, they've retired from it because of whatever reasons, and now they're professionals like these three. And what I want you to do is share this out. So when they're speaking, if you hear some just golden nuggets, some gems, click that share last 30 seconds button. We're coming up on the last 3 minutes of our athleteblab for this first ever one. So I'm going to let you take it away first, Pasha, and just 1 minute on all that good stuff.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on, by the way. I appreciate you guys. What I did, I was older. I finished up my athletic career when I was 29 because of injuries. And so I was trying to figure out, well, what's next? Well, I learned to have mentors. I went out there and found people that were doing what I wanted to do. And one of the people that I interned for, because I ended up interning at a late age, I wasn't in college anymore, was the same. She was my same age. But being an intern for that particular person and learning from her helped me to launch my speaking career. She called me up after I interned with her, and I ended up speaking at the 2014 WNBA draft, and has been there every year. I actually have a meeting when I get off of here for that. So I believe that it's understanding that, yeah, you may be a great athlete, but there are just some things that you know, and there's some things you don't know. Go out there and find the people that can help you. Because people want to help, especially if they see you helping yourself. Go out and ask questions like people are doing right here. Go out and find somebody who's already doing it. But understand that mentorship is a two-way street.
Yes.
Okay? No one just wants to give you all the information. They worked hard to get where they are. So what is your value to them? What can you bring them? And if you're bringing a value and they're doing what you want, most people open their doors to you, because people are busy, but they will, and they'll help you. And find the people in your circle that are already doing things that can help you as well. Yes, it's tons of resources. Yeah, ask the right questions and use your resources.
Thank you. And Daniel, your minute.
What you think about Nike is not just about the shoe that you bought and how well it fits and how fast you can run in it. Yeah, that's important. The product needs to fit you and be comfortable and help you achieve your goals. But what you think about Nike is also about the experience you had in the Nike store. It's also about every Nike athlete that you see out there that is on a Nike commercial. It's all of it, all matters for your ultimate final impression of Nike. As an athlete, it's not what people think of you and what your ultimate value is, your ability to get that six-figure paycheck, to maybe get some sponsorships that stick with you for years and years, isn't just about what you can do on the court. Yes, that is important, but it's also about the presence that you have for the fans, how you seem to your community, how you interact with your coaches, your agents, and all of it all comes together, whether you like it or not. It's all part of the giant impression that culminates in your value as an athlete.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Dre.
And one thing I like that Pasha said is that, listen, people don't jump on bandwagons that are not moving. People want to help people who are already helping themselves. So if you are not doing anything to help yourself, it's going to be very hard to find somebody who wants to help you. And the last thing that I want to share with everybody, when it comes to building your brand, the first thing you need to understand is, who are you? Who are you? What are you about? And what is it that you're aiming for? And then ask yourself this question: who were you 5 years ago? Who were you 10 years ago? The answer to that question is the exact answer to the people you should be catering your content to right now. You're talking to yourself 5 years ago. You're talking to yourself 10 years ago. And if you had to give that person advice, you were able to sit down with them for an hour and tell them everything important that they need to know. Write down all those ideas, and that's exactly what you need to be sharing on your social media and your blog posts and your videos on your Instagram, because number one, it gives you the credibility because you've already been there. Number two, you know exactly what you're talking about because you know what it takes to get from point A to point B. Those people who are right now at point A, they want to know how to get to point B, and you are the perfect avatar for telling them how to get there. So just start talking to yourself, and your audience will find you. You don't have to go and seek them out.
Excellent advice. Thank you all so much. And I just want to say that without you guys, this was not possible. Truly great sessions. And if you can, go ahead and push this, as many as you were in or you weren't in, any of them that you liked. Thank you so much. And there's going to be a link here on the side that if you want to sign up, you can get information for future athlete blabs. But we appreciate everyone's attention, everybody's comments, and everybody's love for this session. Thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
you for having me.
Take care.
Bye, Susan. I see you over there.
We miss you, Susan.
Bye,
it wasn't
Susan.
possible without you because it was your idea.
This was great. Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you.
I think I followed most of you, so I'll be following you guys.
Yeah, and we're going to send out, don't worry. All speakers get a contact list of all speakers.
Okay.
Ciao. I'm starting to boot.
All right, be blessed. Be blessed.
All right.
Bye-bye. Thanks for watching Athlete Blab 2016. Come back next time.